Pokemon TCG for the Game Boy Color is a nostalgic classic filled with NPCs for the player to duel. But we're gonna make them fight each other instead, in a never-seen-before tournament format. Now, to give you a brief introduction to the game itself, it's a 1998 title for the Game Boy Color that trades the usual Pokemon battles for a pretty faithful adaptation of early Pokemon TCG duels. The players put in the shoes of a child, as is Pokemon tradition, whose dream is to get their hands on these so-called legendary cards. In order to do so, they have to battle their way through a series of trainers divided into clubs, the game's equivalent of gyms, each built around a Pokemon type, like water or fighting, and headed by a club master that you can only access after fighting a couple of their underlings. Acquiring all club medals allows the player to challenge the Grandmasters, each holding one of the legendary cards and playing a deck built around it. In the process, you will be occasionally accosted by Ronald the Rival, who's on the same quest you are and is going to be a dick about it. The game includes cards from the first 3 sets of the TCG, so if you're familiar with the modern iteration of the game, the effects might seem a bit simplistic, and the power level very low. For example, attacking for 20 is considered pretty decent here. There's also a lot of coin tossing. Now, a couple of words about how the tournament itself is going to work, and I'm not going to go into too much detail on the tech and, what's happening on the backend here, but if you are interested in that, there will be a companion kind of behind-the-scenes video dropping on my Patreon, patreon.com/gamesdeconstructed, so you can head there if that is something that would interest you. In essence, we are ROM hacking the game, very slightly, replacing the manual controls for what would usually be the player in each duel with another instance of the existing game AI. That means both sides of the duel will use the same original decision-making from the original game. And since the AI routines are deck-specific, it will be just as if the actual Ronald that you're battling in the game was fighting the actual Courtney. As for the in-game setup, the trigger for each duel happening is what normally is a battle against Amanda in the Water Club. So it's kind of like Amanda is the host of the tournament, though much in the same way one might be host to a Parasite, so let's not dwell on that too much. Coding in assembler gives me headaches, so I don't change the names of the sides. You will see the duelists appear as Mark and Amanda, and I'll try to find a way to make that a bit less confusing in post. The tournament will consist of 2 phases. The first is a round-robin best-of-1 between all 42 of our competitors, and in the interest of time, these matches will only use 4 prizes. Based on the results of this group stage, the top 8 will then advance to a single elimination Swiss bracket to find the ultimate winner. So I started the tournament, let it run for what seemed like weeks, and came back to a neat summary of our quote-unquote day 1 results. Here's a couple of highlights from that. On the very bottom of our brackets, we have 3 competitors that only won 10 out of their 41 matches. Predictably, one of these is Imakuni, an Easter egg semi-secret character based on the Creatures Inc. staff member Tomoaki Imakuni. I say that that's predictable because his deck includes 4 copies of his namesake trainer card that makes his own Pokemon confused, so he plays at a bit of a disadvantage from the get-go. He's joined by Daniel, the Psychic Club member, with a really neat strategy, focusing on making the opposing Pokemon asleep to pick them out using Haunter's Dream Eater. But it seems like requiring the opposing Pokemon to fail their sleep coin toss in order to do anything is a bit out there as far as strategies go. Daniel's dreams will have to remain dreams for the time being. The other duelist at the bottom here is Sarah, with her Waterfront Pokemon deck. Normally playing for just 2 prizes, she finds herself out of her depth, and her deck doesn't help, running 7 different evolution lines which end up being dead cards in her hand more often than not. As we climb up the ladder, we find the lowest ranked club master in Gene. Despite calling his opponents softies, it turns out he's mostly talk. His rock-type Pokemon, which are interestingly considered fighting-type in the game, weren't able to carry him higher than 34% win rate and 33rd place. As we approach 50% win rate and the middle of the pack, there's our first upset. For the purposes of this tournament, we consider each of Ronald the Rival's decks a separate entry. And the lowest rated of the four is actually his final deck in the game, Legendary Ronald. This is the last duel of the entire game, and I would expect Ronald to fare at least a little bit better. His deck contains all the legendary cards, acquiring which is the game's stated goal, but of course a few of them are just for show as he doesn't run the energies required for them to attack. To go for a highly relatable analogy, he's like one of those soccer super teams that brought in all superstar players only to find out that they don't really work that well together. A bit further, narrowly missing out on the top 8, we find the lowest rated legendary Grandmaster, Steve of legendary Zapdos fame. Giving it his all with a 60% win rate, he is nonetheless eliminated. And now it's time to meet our Day 2 contestants. Starting with 8th place, it's Adam, running the Flamethrower deck, a very fair monotype strategy with some strong beaters in there. And in 7th place, it's Michael and his Heated Battle deck, featuring very strong basics and a decent type coverage. In 6th place, giving credence to his in-game status, is Grandmaster Rod, with his legendary Dragonite deck. And in 5th place, some might say due to home turf advantage, it's the gracious host of the tournament, Amanda. Her contemplatively named Lonely Friends deck runs a bit counter to the expectations placed on her as a Water Club member. While there are some water Pokemon in there, Poliwag and the Omanite line mostly, the star of the deck is undoubtedly her Wigglytuff, whose damage scales with the number of her benched Pokemon, keeping my fingers crossed for Amanda. 4th place is Ken, the Fire Club Master, with the aptly named Fire Charge. While similar on the surface to the Flamethrower deck we've already seen, this one also features some premium normal types in Chansey and Tauros. In 3rd place, it's Ronald again, but interestingly, the highest placement that Cheating Bastard, who entered the tournament 4 times, got is with his first deck, just called I'm Ronald. This is the deck the player faces in the game after getting 2 Master Medals. I have a feeling that he was at an advantage playing in a 4-prize format, since his Pokemon are relatively quick to set up, and I hope to see him fail in that second round. In 2nd and 1st place, hand in hand with an astounding 36 wins each, it's the remaining 2 Grandmasters, Articuno Jack and Moltres Courtney. Unlike legendary Ronald's sorry attempt earlier, these decks are tuned to fully take advantage of their staple legendaries, and it shows. Based on these placements, this is the seeding for round 2, and I'd like to invite you to join me for the play-by-play. This is best of 1, 6 prizes, single elimination, let's go! Our first match is Courtney vs Adam, Flamethrower vs legendary Moltres. Courtney wins the coin toss and will start. Moltres is placed on the bench, allowing her to get an extra fire energy. As she starts setting up her Magmar, Adam has an Eevee in the active, which, if nothing else, is reasonably bulky and is going to buy him a couple of turns to set up his bench. A second fire energy attached to Magmar, and this is going to be Fire Punch, hitting for a very reasonable 30. 2 hits from that, and that Eevee is going down. Adam places his Growlithe in the active, but unless he's able to set it up, that is also going to fall to 2 Fire Punches from Courtney's Magmar. And that is the strategy Courtney's going with. She's setting up her bench while Fire Punching with the Magmar, and it does seem like a very effective strategy thus far. And that is going to be second prize. Eevee going into the active is going to be able to use, ooh, that's good RNG on the quick attack, 1 more of these, and that Magmar is going to fall, ooh, but that Flamethrower is going to be a 1-hit KO, another Eevee in the active. Is the Magmar going to fall? Yes, it is. Another good 50-50 on the quick attack. But now it's Arcanine versus Eevee, and another Flamethrower is going to knock that out. 2 prizes left. But it seems like Adam has run out of active Pokemon, so that's going to be a win for Courtney, and she goes straight to the semifinals. For our second quarterfinal match, it's legendary Articuno Jack versus Heated Battle Michael. Jack loses the coin toss, so Michael will be going first. And we are seeing both players start with very strong basics, very large HP pools, and that Hitmonchan is especially noteworthy for its ability to hit for 20 with just one fighting type energy attached to it. It seems like that's going to be Michael's start, dealing 20 damage to Jack's Lapras. Now Jack's Lapras is going to be able to attack back with just one water energy attached to it, but for its Water Gun move to reach its full potential, it's going to require 3 of those energies attached, so for the time being that's just 10 damage, but chip damage is better than no damage. Instead of Water Gun, he deigns to go for a Confuse Ray, and that's a good call, I think. Ooh, that is big. And Jack's Lapras is now fully set up and able to deal that remaining 30 damage with its Water Gun. Now Michael pulls his Hitmonlee into the active, a very strong basic Pokemon as well, but seems like with no energies attached to it, it might very well just be a sacrifice. We will have to wait and see. And yeah, it seems like the Hitmonlee is just here to buy time. The defender is going to help with that, it's going to buy it another turn. Water Gun doesn't KO with the defender, but that is of course one use only. And we will have to wait and see if Michael's next move is going to be that Magmar or the Hitmonchan. The 4th energy on Lapras might be a bit overkill, but that is second prize for Jack. Placing a Monkey on the bench, giving Michael some additional info. And another job to the Lapras. One more and the Pokemon will be knocked out. But here comes the Water Gun. And the Hitmonchan will be able to knock out the Lapras, giving Michael his first prize. Seal is not an especially strong attacker, and that Hitmonchan is set up sufficiently so that it may use its stronger attack, the Special Punch dealing 40. Another knockout for Michael, and the prize race is now dead even. Another Special Punch here, bringing Seal into the danger zone, but that Hitmonchan has very little HP left. And that last Headbutt is going to be enough. 3 prizes to 4. Now Monkey has a very low health pool, so I'm afraid this is also going to be knocked out very soon. Ooh, and that's good thinking. Jack pulls back the damaged Seal, replacing it with a fresh one. Another water energy attached, and now it evolves into Dugong. And with 3 energies attached, it's going to be able to utilize its signature move Aurora Beam. Kangaskhan in the active, huge health pool for a basic, helps with additional card draw with its move Fetch, but requires 4 energies to deal any damage of its own. Yup, that's a full 50 damage, that's going to be a 2-hit KO on the Kangaskhan unless something unexpected happens, and that's a rare sight. The Kangaskhan is able to stonewall for longer usually. Yep, the Kangaskhan is just going to be sacrificed here. Just one last prize card stands between Jack and victory in this match, so we will see if this Magmar is going to do the impossible, but it's immediately replaced with another Kangaskhan. That's not going to do it. That's not going to do it, it's not going to be able to attack on time. Just one more Aurora Beam necessary in order for Jack to win the match. And that is exactly what happens. 6th prize is drawn and Jack is the winner of this match, heading to the semi-finals. For our 3rd quarterfinal match is the underdog Ronald with the I'm Ronald deck versus the tried in battle legendary Dragonite of Grandmaster Rod. And we are seeing a Growlithe versus a Charmander in the active. Charmander will take first blood here, hitting for 10 with Scratch, and interestingly, Ronald goes for setting up his bench rather than attaching a second energy to the Growlithe here. Another Scratch. And here's the second energy on the Growlithe, being able to hit for a 20. It's a back and forth on the battlefield, however the Growlithe hitting for 20 is going to ultimately come out victorious unless something changes. Doesn't seem to be the case, so that's going to be another scratch and probably a knockout, netting Ronald his first prize. A Dratini placed in the active, following very much the same strategy, hitting for another 10. And now it's a 1-for-1. Ooh, that is an interesting if a bit underhanded strategy on Ronald's part. That seal is super effective against the Charmander that just got gusted in, the Dratini is switched back in, and we're back to exchanging 10 HP hits. With the Seal's higher HP pool, Ronald is going to come out victorious from that one as well. And that's a Kangaskhan from Rod, and that's going to allow him to draw a multitude of cards, provided Ronald doesn't bring something else into the active. A lot of card draw from Rod, a lot of card selection, and that is how you're supposed to use a Kangaskhan. We are going to fast forward this a bit. Headbutt fetch, headbutt fetch, headbutt fetch. Ooh, but now the Seal retreats and the Marowak, fully set up Marowak, is brought into the active. That is going to accelerate this duel somewhat. Another Boomerang, and this one is also not going to connect. Rod is born under a lucky star, it seems. A third Boomerang, and this one is going to connect, and due to the Kangaskhan's weakness, this one is going to be a KO. Oof, that is a Magikarp in the active for Rod now, and with just a single heads, that's also going to get knocked out by the Marowak. So that's a 75% chance of Ronald getting another prize. That's a double tails, so that's going to allow the Magikarp to do some more chip damage to the Marowak. The lucky star strikes again, as that's another two tails. The chances of that happening are very, very slim. But all good things must come to an end, as another Boomerang knocks out the Magikarp. That is a Charmander. It is set up, however it's not going to be able to use its better moves, because the energy types are not that great on it. Another miss on the Boomerang. But seeing that the Marowak is about to fall, Ronald deigns to bring his Seal back into the active. And that Seal is of course going to be super effective against the Fire-type Charmander. Ronald now gusts in the already damaged Charmander on Rod's bench, and that's going to be a knockout. Just one prize left here. But that's a setup Lapras, it's going to be a bit of a roadblock and a hard-hitting one. It's another chance for Marowak to deal some damage with the Boomerang. That's gonna be a 30. Rod is making up some lost ground here, but is it going to be enough? We will have to wait and see. $30 damage on the Squirtle. But what's this? Ronald switches in his Charmeleon and it's already set up with the requisite energies to use Flamethrower, which is going to hit for 50. And that's going to be the final knockout here. Ronald unfortunately wins, going to the semifinals. Now our last quarters match is going to be between the gracious host of today's tournament, Amanda, versus Ken, the Fire Club leader. Prizes are placed and Ken is going to go first. Jigglypuff versus Magmar in the active. One energy on each, and the Magmar is going to pass the sleep check, is going to wake up, Another fire energy attached, and that's a 30 damage, so that's going to be a 2-hit KO on the Jigglypuff. A Clefairy Doll is placed on Amanda's bench, but it does count as one for Wigglytuff's attack, which we might get to see in the rest of the match. Another Lullaby. And the Magmar is able to wake up, so it's going to knock out the Jigglypuff. First prize for Can. Another Jigglypuff in the active, that's Friendship Song, that's going to allow Amanda to pull a basic Pokemon from her deck, place it on the bench. Oh, that's Flamethrower, that's going to be a single hit KO. And another Flamethrower is going to dispatch the Poliwag. Things are not looking so great for Amanda. But now she pulls a Scyther into the active, and the double colorless energy is going to allow it to attack for 30 damage. That is enough to knock out the Magmar. Tauros placed on the bench for Can, and a Mysterious Fossil for Amanda. Another Slash, that Scyther is going to be able to knock out that Growlithe in just 2 hits. And the Mysterious Fossil evolves into an Omanite, giving Amanda some much needed info on what's in her opponent's hand, as we brace for the Scyther's attack. And that Jigglypuff has the energies required to make a dent in the Scyther, but that Scyther is doing work over here. Also on pace for a 2-hit KO on Ken's next Pokemon. Oh, and this is huge, because the coin toss was failed, the Scyther is going to be able to attack again. Another Omanite appears on the bench, but that's probably going to be the Scyther's last attack, 30 damage on the Tauros. And that last stomp is going to knock out the hero Scyther. Omanite placed in the active, but what's that? It has no energies. It's gonna get knocked out, and Ken is now just 1 prize away from victory. Another Omanite for Amanda. It now evolves into Omastar, the stage 2 evolution of the line. And with a second water energy on it, it's going to be able to use Spike Cannon. This can deal as much as 60 damage. However, 0 is going to be a lot less than 60. Oof, Rampage is big damage, but that Tauros is now going to be confused, so there is a 50% chance that it misses its next attack. Is the Omastar going to be able to do the impossible? It knocks out the Tauros. 2 prizes left for Amanda. That's a Jigglypuff in the active, but it cannot attack for the time being. Another Spike Cannon, and that's 2 heads. That's going to be 60 damage. That's going to equalize the prize count. And that's another Jigglypuff. If she's able to repeat that previous Spike Cannon, that's going to be the win for Amanda. 30 damage, not enough to knock out. But Ken is opting to set up his bench instead. There's a 75% chance that Amanda has the win here. That's 2 heads, that's more than enough as Amanda takes her last prize and the victory. Amanda is our last semi-finalist here. We head into our first semi-final, and this is going to be Courtney against Ronald. No basic Pokemon in Ronald's hand. Prizes are placed, and we are off to the races. Courtney is going to play first. That's a Moltres placed on the bench that's going to allow her to use Fire Giver to get another Fire Energy. And it's Growlithe versus Charmander in the active. I think we've seen this matchup already. $10 damage from the Charmander. 20 damage from the Growlithe. We've seen this happen in real time in one of the quarterfinal matches. Another Flare from Growlithe. And Ronald decides to switch in the Squirtle, ensuring a favorable type matchup. No paralysis, but that's going to be a 20 damage. Courtney switches out the Growlithe for the Moltres, but it's not set up by any means. Another Bubble that's going to paralyze, but of course with no energies on the Moltres, that doesn't really matter. One Fire Energy. Another Bubble, another dose of paralysis, but it's very much the same story. The Moltres needs 3 energies to attack. And now that is going to be 3 energies, it's no longer paralyzed, so let's see if this Dive Bomb connects. It doesn't. It would have knocked out the Squirtle in one hit, but only on heads. That's another paralysis. Is this humble Squirtle going to be able to knock out the legendary Pokemon Moltres? Seems like it's headed in that direction. It's a death of 1,000 cuts here, and at least 500 of these come with paralysis on top. But that is a ferocious looking Ninetales on the bench already. No paralysis this time. Is this going to be a knockout from the Moltres? Not this time. And it's paralyzed again! That Squirtle is doing surprising amounts of work. And now it's evolved into Wartortle and it has enough energies to use Bite. That's going to do 40 damage, that's going to be a knockout on the Moltres. Now Courtney brings out her Ninetales. This attack can deal as much as 80 damage provided she flips 8 heads, which is a bit of an ask. 50 is going to be a very reasonable number as well. Oof, due to the type disadvantage, this is going to be a one-hit KO on the Ninetales as well. Courtney's already damaged Growlithe is going to be able to take the KO with the Flare, netting her her first prize. It's Growlithe versus Growlithe in here, however one of those is damaged. Courtney's Vulpix attempts to buy some time with the Confuse Ray, but it's not going to be as effective as she would have liked. An energy removal from the Growlithe and another attempt at Confusion. This one is going to be effective, so this is buying time for Courtney to figure out a way to get out of this. Ronald attempts to switch out, but it's ineffective because of the Confusion. Ronald utilizes switches a lot as a duelist, but with the Confusion in place, it might very well spell his doom. Ronald attempts to retreat, but it is once again prevented by the Confusion. And we are seeing the same story play out time and again here. Now this means that the Growlithe is going to fall. Four prizes left for Courtney. Charmander uses Ember for the knockout. Courtney bringing out Arcanine, attaching a third Fire Energy, and that's going to allow it to use Flamethrower. That's a nice and tidy 50 damage, just what's needed to knock out the Charmander. No paralysis on the bubble. Another Flamethrower knocks out the Squirtle. 2 prizes left for both players, we are now officially equal on prizes. That's gonna be a seal. And that's going to be another flamethrower. Courtney is burning through those energies. But there's just one prize left. Charmander in the active replaced by a Squirtle. Those are the switches that Ronald is so well known for. But if Courtney has another fire energy, she is going to be able to go for a single hit knockout with the flamethrower again. And that is very much going to be the case. Another win for Courtney, as she is our first finalist. Now on the other side of the arena, we tune in to the second semi-final. This one between Jack, the Articuno Grandmaster, and Amanda with the Lonely Friends deck. Amanda will go first and put the seal to sleep. It doesn't pass its sleep check. However, it does pass the immediate next one. We are seeing the Omanite come out, perhaps a prelude to Amanda's Omastar that we've seen do great work in the previous match. And she evolves her Jigglypuff into Wigglytuff, the staple Pokemon in the deck. Putting the seal to sleep again, but it immediately wakes up. Articuno is placed on the bench, activating Quick Freeze. There is a chance that the Wigglytuff is going to be paralyzed. But that is not the case. As it's first blood for Jack's seal. Another Wigglytuff evolved on the bench and another Lullaby. Seal wakes up. Switching in another seal, this one with 2 energies. Another 10 damage. And now with the addition of the third energy, this is what the deck is known for. This is Do the Wave. It scales with the number of Amanda's benched Pokemon to deal lots and lots of damage. In this case, that's going to be a very reasonable 50. Headbutt followed by Do the Wave. And first prize goes to Amanda. But that Wigglytuff is slowly crumbling from the series of Jack's attacks. And second prize goes to Amanda. Jax brings out a Chansey, very much a stone wall of a Pokemon. That thing has a huge health pool and an attack that can prevent damage from being dealt. Omastar for Amanda, ready and waiting on the bench. Amanda, being unable to deal damage, tries to put the Chansey to sleep. However, it wakes up, uses Scrunch again, it's not going to be able to be damaged. Put to sleep again. But doesn't wake up this time. Wakes up at the end of the turn. But this is the chance for Amanda to deal some damage to that very, very tanky Pokemon. Scrunch fails, that's going to be another chunk of damage. But just in time, the Chansey is going to be able to use Double Edge, ensuring a double-sided KO here. Amanda seems comfortably in the lead here on prizes, but that is a fully set up Articuno. It wakes up. It attacks with Blizzard, which is 50 damage with an additional chance of hitting either player's bench. Amanda makes the decision not to set up her Wigglytuff further. It seems like it's just going to be the sacrifice for the Articuno, which fails its sleep check. Another turn of life for the Wigglytuff. It wakes up at the end of the turn though. wakes up, so that's going to spell the end for the Wigglytuff. And that's Omastar, the hero of the quarterfinal match, now in the active. Is it going to be able to do the impossible here? 30 damage from the Spike Cannon. Oof, another Blizzard. Hitting Amanda's bench, leaving the Omastar on just 10 HP. Another 30 damage is not going to be enough, I'm afraid. As the Freeze Dry knocks out the Omastar. Scyther with no energies, this is not looking great for Amanda. Another Blizzard and another Heads, hitting every Pokemon on that bench. To use some Twitch parlance, I'm afraid it's over, chat. Oh, that Jigglypuff is going to fall to just a single Blizzard here. Only one prize left. Is there anything that can stop Jack's Articuno? It's probably not going to be the zero energy Jigglypuff. Evolves into Wigglytuff, tries to put the Articuno to sleep in a desperate last-ditch attempt to buy some time, and it's effective. Oh no, but Jack uses Scoop Up to pick up the Articuno, replacing that with a Dugong who is able to attack. Aurora Beam for 50 is going to end the match here. What an ending. It's been a great show from Amanda here, but Jack is going to head into the final. And now it's time for the moment at least I've been waiting for. The grand final is Grandmaster versus Grandmaster as Courtney faces off against Jack. Articuno versus Moltres. Magmar uses Smokescreen, and if this is going to be the main strategy here, this is going to take some time. Chansey scrunches, let's fast forward this a bit. Smokescreen scrunch, Smokescreen scrunch, Smokescreen scrunch. Smokescreen, scrunch, Smokescreen, scrunch. That Magmar is working overtime. But what an ending. With the double edge being able to turn this into a two-sided KO. Now Courtney is at a type disadvantage here, and that Magmar is going to be able to hit for 30, but the return from the Lapras is going to be something to behold. Now it's a Moltres in the active, a different Moltres than the one we've seen previously. Another Water Gun, but of course Moltres is not weak to water in this. Dive Bomb misses. Another Dive Bomb miss here. That Lapras is going to be able to knock out the Moltres. And it's not looking great for Courtney. But there is that Ninetales waiting in the wings. It uses Mix-Up, which unfortunately does effectively nothing here. A super effective Water Gun. Another mix-up, and it seems like Courtney is crumbling. But this is the Ninetales that she's been setting up, and are we going to see an 80 damage Dancing Embers here? $50 damage is nearly enough, but just ever so slightly shy of being able to knock out that Lapras, and the Jack is going to switch in another one with no damage on it. The Ninetales is replaced by a Magmar, giving Amanda a chance to heal. Oof, but now it's time for the Dugong switch in, and Aurora Beam for 50 is going to end the match very, very quickly here. The match goes to Jack, the undisputed champion of this official NPC tournament, and we have our winner. So that was the tournament. I hope you enjoyed. Big thanks go to everyone involved in the Pokemon TCG ROM hacking community, especially the Discord member Oats, who got me started on how to replace the controls for the AI in the first place. And an equally huge thanks go to all Patreon supporters over on patreon.com/gamesdeconstructed, especially Dillinger, Maciej Majka, and Anna Schulz. Thank you very much for your continued support. I've been Simon from Games Deconstructed, and I hope to see you in the next one.